Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it rain. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt. No, we can't turn back now. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Tonight we gonna let it rain. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it
Hello, welcome in everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Happy Saturday. It is Saturday evening. We made it to the weekend. Hopefully you guys are having a great weekend. If you guys saw me earlier today, welcome back. If this is your first time here for the day, welcome in. And if this is your first time ever on the channel, hello, my name is Tanya or TitaniumBuilt. Nice to meet you. Just going to get my screen's going here. There we go. I've got enough screens. So I think that we'll be good to go. But thank you guys for being here. I won't go through all the names in the chat, but I do want to thank each and every one of you for coming and spending a little bit of your evening with me tonight. I do appreciate that so much. And it's like, it's warm in here tonight. Must be all the lights or something. But we are going to go over some Brian Koberger stuff. So it was actually going to be a podcast, but I found the video version of it. So I didn't even know there was a video version of this. But I thought we'd go over this tonight. Maybe we'll go over 1 or 2 episodes. It's a 4-episode series that they came out with. Fox Nation came out with it. They started with Kevin. I can't remember his last name. Kevin Fixler. He is a local journalist for the Idaho Statesman. So he's been working on this case ever since it happened, ever since it started. So he sits down and he talks with, I think she's a defense attorney. I can't remember her name, but he sits down and he talks to her about like getting inside the inside of the Idaho murders. So maybe we'll hear some new stuff. Maybe we won't. We never know with these things. But usually we do. So this one isn't the One Night in Idaho. That one actually is on my Patreon. So thanks, Dion. I appreciate that. I curled it tonight. I curled it this morning and then I curled it again. Thank you, Adriana. I appreciate that. some lady today, I'm going to tell you a funny story. This isn't actually a funny story for women that are my age. Um, I am 137 pounds and I'm 5'8". Pretty healthy weight, right? Not too big, not too small, just right. Just right. I feel like, right? Okay. So I'm wearing a one piece that I am right now. This is exactly what I was wearing today. And I go into the Sam's Club. And when I go into Sam's Club, I have to have a frozen yogurt when I leave. I'm like a little kid. Give me my pretzel and give me my frozen yogurt. Plain pretzel, please. No butter. That stuff's stupid. I hate when people put butter on their pretzels. Well, the lady at the counter has like no chill. Like she has like no filter. Like, and I know this because I've talked to her plenty, many times. And maybe she just thought because I love me some frozen yogurts that I could have a baby in my belly. But when I tell you, she dead looked me in the eye and said, "How far along are you?" I was like, "What?" I said, "I'm just chunky. Just I just like to eat." Like I told Vincent was like laughing. Like he didn't know what to do because he's never like been in that position ever. And he's never even like known what to do in that position. He's never known that to be like something bad to say because he's never heard it said to someone. So it was like going over his head. So we go with our little buggy, our little cart, and I'm like, "Vincent." I'm like, "Do I look pregnant?" And he's like, "No, I don't think you do at all." And I'm like, I was like, I said, "This is the worst thing you could have." That was my story. I had to get it out. But I'm like, that's the worst thing you could say to a woman that's almost 40 years old. And I'm not pregnant. Thanks, Patricia. I still love my body, but she kind of hurt me today. She kind of put a ding in me. But I know she meant well. I know she didn't mean it in like a mean way or like to make me feel bad. I think she probably thought because I have Vincent going there a lot. Like at one point, I told him to tell her I was pregnant because he was going there so many times to get me a pretzel and a yogurt. It was like every day. I was like, just tell her I'm pregnant and I'm having a craving, right? So I kind of put it into the ether, like the ethernet, I guess, or whatever. But no, I'm just like, I'm gonna stand up just so you guys can see. This is my size. Okay. I felt like I should stand up and show you guys, but you guys have seen me stand up and go to the door, which I'm going to go to the door right now, but I'm going to talk to you as I go. I'm just letting in the other dog. I'm just letting in your sister. Come on. Where are you going? You gotta stay in here. No, you're staying too because you'll want to come back in. Everybody sit down to get acquainted. Okay. So I just thought I would tell you guys that story because I said to Vincent, I said, "I can't wait till I can tell my chat about this." That's exactly what I said. Because most of you guys, I mean, Aries is in here, but like most of us are women. And we do have our gentlemen that come in and hang out with us, but most of us are women, and most of you guys are women that are either my age, around my age, or a little bit older than me. And so I thought you guys would know. You guys would feel it if I told you that. I'm like, that's the worst thing. I told Vincent, I said, if you walked up to any woman other than, it telling a woman she looks fat, but this is like that, right? That's like the one thing, right? The women would say, don't tell a woman, or she's pregnant. Even if you're 9 months and I told Vincent, even if you're 9 months and your water breaks right in front of me, I'm not asking you if you're pregnant. I'm still going to be like, you cool? Like, it's just, it was just funny. It was funny. So I thought I'd share that with you guys. Thanks for listening to my story. I appreciate it. I needed to get that out because Vincent wasn't really getting it. He was just laughing his little butt off. He thought it was funny. He thought he didn't see it. Like he didn't know, you know what I mean? Like he's just so innocent. Aries said, I'm a man and you're pregnant. Is that what you said? Well, that's something to wake up and look forward to. I know. I hate to even, yeah, I don't even, even if you look pregnant, I'm not asking. I should have said that. You see, I was thinking of all kinds of things I could say next time. I was like, maybe I should just walk up in here smoking a cigarette or something up at the checkout. I wouldn't do that. But, it was a funny story. It happened to me. So, I don't feel any worse. I still ate the yogurt and I still ate the pretzel. So I didn't feel that bad. And I didn't use my walking pad today neither. So there's that. Ice cream. So we are going to go over, it's called the Inside the Idaho Murders, the legal, oh, no, sorry, that's the wrong page. I was watching that earlier. That was something else I was watching. But it is Inside the Idaho Murders. It is a true crime podcast that says Fox Nation, but we got it on video, which is nice. And you know what? I could have just looked right here on the video. It says his name right there. Kevin Fixler. He's the Fixler. Idaho Statesman investigative reporter. So, let me pop this up. And then this is the first episode. There is 4 episodes. So we will go through the first one and then we'll see kind of where we are. And then we'll go through the second one if we have enough time tonight. And then I put the link in for the podcast version of this. I'll put the link in for the video version in the description as well. Because I didn't realize until like right before the live that there was a video version of this. I was like, I was actually watching something else with Fox Nation and this popped up and I was like, wait a minute. So lucky for us. Okay, I'm going to go, I'm going to play this and then pause. I'm going to mute me so I can give my dog her bed. Hold on.
So Kevin, let's start by painting a picture of the town. So for listeners that aren't familiar with Moscow, Idaho, talk to us about what it's like and how it was perceived before the murders.
Moscow is in the Idaho Panhandle, and that's about 6 hours north of the capital in Boise. Moscow is a small college town, although for Idaho, it's not terribly small. It's the county is about 40,000 people, and the town of Moscow, the city of Moscow, is about 25,000 people. That's largely based on the college campus, however, the flagship university for the state. You hear this cliche often, but Moscow is the type of place where you didn't lock your door. And that really is a true statement. And many people I spoke to over the course of my reporting and my own introduction to Moscow, my first time up there was actually following the quadruple homicides. But they said, it's a quiet, peaceful place. It's a lot of farmland and what many would consider rural. But like I said, because Idaho is a smaller state, population of about 2 million, a community of 45,000 people is not terribly small, but it is the comings and goings of college students.
Did he say 2 million in the whole state? Is that what he said? Wow.
The academic calendar, and many find their homes there afterwards. Many stay because they just find it to be a really beautiful and serene place.
Yeah, I went to University of Washington, and our rivals are Washington State, which are it's an 8-minute drive from University of Idaho. So I spent a lot of time there myself and in college, and it's so fun. And especially for collegiates, it was so fun. Now, we know that the incoming freshman class of University of Idaho that year was the largest that they'd ever have. It was finally after COVID, they were getting back, and then this happens. Talk to us about the perception of University of Idaho, the vandals, and what the campus was like. Was it safe? Talk to us about that identity.
Idaho overall is a terribly safe state. It has one of the lowest violent crime rates in the country. It has never or rarely experienced something like a quadruple homicide, let alone on the college campus. Now, there is the occasional crime, of course. It is a college community. It's younger folks drinking, partying, the usual stuff you would expect out of a college community. But it was a...
Well, I mean, for the whole state, they have, 8 people on their death row? So that's not that many. I mean, they really don't have that. I guess, but for 2 million people.
And remains a really safe place. There was just this horrible tragedy that happened, and not something they could have foreseen, prepared for, and it was devastating, not only to Moscow, but the entire state of Idaho. Many people have direct connections and links to the University of Idaho, whether they attended or maybe their children.
9 people.
It's the only law school in the state. So many of the attorneys who were on this case all had come through that program. So everyone has links to it, despite the distance from the capital. But it is a place near and dear to many people's hearts, and they go up there for travel, vacation, getaways, or to maybe even relive their college years and go to the local college bar.
Yeah. Okay, so now walk us through what we know about the timeline on the night of this horrific tragedy. Where was everyone before heading home or heading back to 1122 King Road? And then what do we know about how the killings took place?
Sure. The victims were Kaylee Consalves, Let me try that again. The four victims were Kaylee Consalves, Madison Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. The three young women lived in the home with two other female roommates who went physically unharmed. Ethan Chapin was Xana's boyfriend and was staying over for the night. The two pairs were separate during the course of the evening. Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were at Ethan's fraternity for a party, and they were there until about 1:45 in the morning, maybe about 2 a.m. And that's only about 600 feet from the King Road property. That's how close that fraternity is. That's the new Greek row for the university. Greek life is a significant component of the campus life. I think it's about a quarter of the campus is a member of a fraternity or sorority. And so they made their way after the party back to the home, where reporting seems to indicate that Ethan stayed frequently. And Kaylee and Maddie were out on the town also for a night of revelry. And they were last seen at the Corner Club, which is kind of the local college dive bar, very sports themed, kind of the place you would go after a football game. And that night happened to be, or that afternoon happened to be the final home game for the University of Idaho Vandals. They played a football game at the Kibbe Dome, which is well known, indoor football stadium. And they lost the game to UC Davis after a pretty strong season, actually. But afterwards, Kaylee and Maddie go to the college bar, the Corner Club, and they left a little after 1:30 a.m. and they walked to Friendship Square, which is right downtown. And that's where a local food truck, one of the few places you can get late night food in Moscow, had parked for that evening. And they pulled up, and we can see that from Twitch camera footage that was released pretty early in, that they had ordered a carbonara, macaroni and cheese. And then they were kind of with some friends, kind of goofing around a little bit. And then they hopped a ride share from someone in town and get back to the house at about 2 a.m. So everyone was back at roughly 2 in the morning. Reporting seems to indicate that they all kind of hung out, the group of friends, and stayed up late chatting. The last to go to sleep was Xana. And we know that because according to the probable cause affidavit, she was first she ordered DoorDash food. It was Jack in the Box that was delivered at 3:59 a.m. So she was awake for that. And then she was scrolling on TikTok until about, I think the time was 4:17 or 4:12 a.m. is what time that was. And so that's how they were able to build a timeline about their whereabouts and, use security camera from the area to see a white vehicle believed to be a 2015 Hyundai Elantra that had circled the area, parked, and then over the course of a 13-minute window, the four victims were killed.
Kevin, what do we know?
And we know now that the FBI did different stings or whatever operations, and we can go over those too after this if you like. But they did do 2 operations showing how they could, if they were moving fast and moving slow, and how long it took them to go through the house. One person was counting as the other person was pretending like they were stabbing, and they would stab, 50 times, however many times Maddie Mogan was stabbed, which was a lot. Then they, went down the stairs, Xana Kernodle and Ethan Chapin. I had it up actually earlier. It only take me like 2 seconds. It's right here, the case file. We'll go ahead and we'll listen to this, and then I'll show you that. We'll go over that.
About how the killings took place during that 13-minute window.
We long had questions about the order of the victims' deaths, and we learned at Brian Koberger's change of plea hearing from prosecutor Bill Thompson that they believe Brian Koberger entered without forced entry at the sliding glass door, which is on the second floor. It's on the back side of the home, kind of the ground floor, but on the back side, it's the second floor technically. He immediately walks through the kitchen and goes up to the third floor, where he finds Madison Mogen and Kaylee Consalves asleep in Madison's room. Kaylee also had a dog across in her room, where the door was open, and he was left there. He moves forward with of the killings, and with a large fixed blade knife, each victim was killed with multiple wounds, according to the coroner and police. Madison Mogen had no defensive wounds, which suggested she, never saw what really hit her, unfortunately. According to the parents of Kaylee Consalves, their daughter put up quite a fight, and she received a lot of the violence. In fact, her nose had been broken, according to the family, in the midst of the struggle. Due to the commotion and the dog barking at 4:17 a.m., it is believed that Xana Kernodle then walks upstairs to see what was going on and encounters Koberger, who then chases her back down to her second floor room.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt it, but I wonder if he broke Kaylee's nose to stun her, right? Because if he's stabbing Maddie, Kaylee's going to wake up as soon as he starts doing that. If she's in bed with her, she's going to wake up immediately. So maybe he used his arm, because he would have this arm, I guess, free. He's leaning over them, and maybe just broke her nose or punched her, used the butt of the knife, and held that in his hand for more of a, something solid in his hand that would cause more of, of a blow to the face. Because I would think that he would need to do that, right? In order to keep, to keep control of them. That's so sad. Because he can't, he only had one knife. He can't stab them both at the same time. He could go back and forth, I guess.
Where she was found dead. And there was quite a struggle there as well. It is believed that Xana had defensive wounds in the midst of their struggle, where she also died of multiple stab wounds from a large fixed blade knife, believed to be a K-bar. Police later found the K-bar knife sheath near Maddie's body, which is kind of how they solved the crime ultimately, because of DNA. After dispensing of Xana, unfortunately, then Koberger turned his attention to her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, who was asleep in bed. It doesn't sound like he ever woke up from what had transpired, and he died primarily from a single blow, although there's reporting that indicates his legs had been carved afterwards, before Koberger then exited the crime scene back through the sliding glass door, where one of the surviving roommates had witnessed a black-clothed figure exit in that direction before closing her own door and locking it.
So who made the 911 call, and what details were known at that time? What was that call like?
A very confusing element of this whole case was that the crime occurred at Koberger had left by 4:20 in the morning and raced out of that cul-de-sac with his car. And the 911 call was not made till almost noon that same morning, that same day. But it was a point of confusion, not something that police could really explain. And what ultimately happened was one of the roommates who had witnessed a man in the home ran down and stayed with her first floor roommate, who also went unharmed. And the next day they called friends over, and 3 friends actually came over from a nearby apartment complex. One of them was a man, and he was checking on their friends because they had heard some commotion the roommates had. And so they make this 911 call, and for the longest time we were not told who made the call, but it was made from one of the 2 roommates' cell phones, and it was passed around among 4 different people, 3 women and the 1 man, to explain to police they were concerned about an unconscious person, happened to be Xana Kernodle, according to the probable cause affidavit.
And so what was the initial police response? What was it like? And did anything raise eyebrows early on? Because now what I'm hearing is that call was potentially unconscious roommates. We know now it was a horrific bloodbath of a quadruple homicide. So was anything like that relayed on the call? And from your reporting, what did the police think that they were responding to, and how did that part unfold?
The 911 call is a difficult listen, and it came out through public records about, I don't know, a handful of months ago, finally, after more than 2 years of waiting for it. And it was released once transcripts were released in court. And what you have is a terrified young woman trying to explain to the dispatcher that something has happened in their home, but they're not quite sure. And the dispatcher very calmly directs her, well, I need to know what's happening right now. And it's reported that there's an unconscious roommate. She had been drinking last night and she's not waking up. And that is the extent of what they know. And so the phone gets passed around. They explain where they're located. And again, it was stated that it was an unconscious person, one individual, and they didn't know the whereabouts or the specifics about it. But you can hear live on the call as the young man, who was a good friend of Ethan Chapin's, he enters the room and then tells everyone else to get out, get out, get out, because he's aware and can see blood on the floor, Xana in a very awkward position, laying on the ground, and Ethan in the bed, and they're not moving. We did learn later that he had checked their pulses and then grabbed a knife from the kitchen and waited in the living room for police. But in a 5-minute call, as police arrive with defibrillators and are themselves entering thinking it's just someone passed out, they come across this terrible scene. Nobody had checked the third floor. They just could not reach Kaylee or Maddie. And it was discovered later, including by the roommates and the friends who had come over, that their other 2 friends and roommates had been killed overnight.
So you're saying the roommates never even went up to the 3rd floor. And so the police officers discovered those 2 murders simultaneously with the roommates because they just knew they couldn't reach them with their phones. And so first they just saw Ethan and Xana.
Correct.
Yeah. And when he's saying get out, it's because the realization that there's been such violence. So he's trying to protect. They're not sure if the threat is still there.
That's right.
Yeah,
and again, according to reporting, he had grabbed a knife from the kitchen in order to just make sure that there wasn't someone in the home. The young women had all exited because he had told them to leave, and he was there to protect them and ensure that they didn't see it. And then they awaited. Police were there within moments and, jumped to the scene to try to assist. The ambulance
Sorry, people were like saying that Hunter and his girlfriend weren't together during this time, but they were, because they refer to them as Hunter and his girlfriend. But even if they weren't and they're all together after this, which does not matter, I have seen that. I've seen that a couple different places posted. If this man, right? He's like not even a man at that point. I mean, you're just so young. I feel like you're just so young. But yeah, he was a young man. If he shielded me from seeing the deaths of my best friend and her boyfriend, who was another one of my best friends, and he shielded me from that, and he did that for me, I'd probably fall in love too. I'd probably fall in love with him too. I mean, yeah, well, he was always there because Ethan was always there, and they were, best buddies. So that's why I'm assuming he was always there. But I don't know how many times he had been there per se, but I know he had been there quite a few times.
Actually had been called through the local volunteer fire department, but was immediately turned away. A really heartbreaking moment that the friends realized as basically the resource was dismissed, that their friends had been killed.
So how soon did authorities confirm publicly that there had been a quadruple homicide? And then what was the public reaction like? Because what you've described is, essentially a very confusing morning for these poor kids, right? Because no one expects anything like this. And so finally at noon, the 911 call comes, and then police respond. Police realize the extent of this, as do the roommates. And then what happens?
Pretty quickly therein, the responding officers contacted dispatch and got a hold of Chief James Fry, who was traveling at the time. And on their call list, Prosecutor Bill Thompson is high on that list as well. He also happened to be traveling at that time, but they started to get the phone tree going and realizing that this was a significant incident. So you have your on-duty commander and some of your supervisors, and James Fry made the call to bring in Idaho State Police. This was something beyond the extent that a local police department could handle. And so they brought in forensics teams and all the peers they could from the state resources. And not long after, they also brought in the FBI. So that was kind of the immediate response. I've spoken with Bill Thompson in the past, and he explained that this was, one of the largest resources he'd ever seen in his, at that time, about 30 years in his elected position. It was obviously a massive response to try to get to the bottom of this quickly. The police department was in touch with the university. They have a partner relationships where officers work on campus through a shared agreement. And so there's a lot of lines of communication there. The university responded by issuing what's called a vandal alert with reference to the school mascot. And they were alerting everyone in the neighborhood and across the college campus that there had been some homicides or a police presence and an incident that they were investigating on King Road, which is where the home is located, and basically keep away. We do know from interviews with the friends who came over and discovered the bodies that they were not told by police directly that there had been 4 homicides. They didn't know where the friends were. They did not know that information until a updated vandal alert went out and described 4 homicides, a quadruple incident. And that is how they learned their friends, all 4, had been killed.
And describe that timeline. Was it that same day? And were the alerts, did the campus then do a shelter in place? Did they say there's someone on the loose still? How was that communicated to the students for their safety?
This became a big point of contention during the early days of the investigation, where police had said they believed that it was a targeted incident. They couldn't really describe who or what exactly, and they didn't. And even under question from the media and a 3-day delay for the first press conference for any additional information through that outlet, they never really explained that. They did tell people to remain vigilant. They believed the community was safe. They did not have a suspect or anyone in custody, of course. That took many weeks, but they believed that it was targeted. And whether it was the home or one of the individuals, that's never really truly been defined. And we still await any sort of information to understand who Brian Kohberger might have had a particular interest in. Interestingly, at his change of plea hearing, Bill Thompson described that while the state would not say at a potential trial that Kohberger entered the home expecting or with a desire to kill 4 people, that was ultimately the end result. And
then what was the nature of the rest of the school's response as they were dealing with 4 of their students that had been killed?
Yes, a tragic incident, of course, and the university immediately canceled school for the next day, and it was near the Thanksgiving holiday, so many people stopped going to class as they entered the break the 2 weeks leading up to that. Many students didn't return for the end of the semester for finals and took those virtually. If there was any benefit from COVID, it was that the university was set up for such testing and so forth. But many families had to make decisions about whether or not they were going to send their kid back. And those were, I'm sure, tough decisions in kitchens across the country and certainly in our state on whether or not they were going to come back. But to alleviate stress and
I would think that'd be hard, a hard decision to make. I do have the picture of the Moscow police bag. I'm just going to pull it up really quick. So the ambulance people, they never went in when they were coming up or whatever. The cops were there and they said, we don't need you. And then they come in with their bag and it says ambulance. I can't read the name on it, but it's one of their last names. I believe it says ambulance. And then this is MPD on there. And you can see it hasn't been unzipped or nothing. They didn't end up using it. They didn't end up needing to use it, which, that's really sad.
And concerns, the university set up a system where they had people who would walk students across campus. They, of course, were recommending to travel in pairs, not stay out too late. And at that time of the year, it gets dark about 4:30 p.m. So essentially, if you're on campus to get to class and then get home, I wouldn't say it was a shelter in place, but it was a recommendation to consider your surroundings, which also continued to be the police's discussion of remain vigilant. And that was all the way up until December 30th when they announced the arrest of Brian Koberger.
And let's just focus for a moment on sort of the media interplay with that in the community and law enforcement. These murders shocked the country, and reporters, including you, they flew in to cover this. And so describe the dynamic, or if there was any tension between the press and law enforcement and the local community there.
There was definitely tension. And in those early days, including myself, we were in contact with Captain Anthony Dollinger, who is now the police chief there after the retirement of James Fry. And he was acting as a public information officer. But they really weren't releasing much information beyond that there had been 4 homicides. And while that term is used sometimes to describe murders, they were not using the word murder. There can be homicide from any number of things, and that created a lot of rumors in the community. And also with these gaps in information, the media was left to try to find any detail possible. And that sent even more waves of people to the community to ask neighbors and learn everything about the community, the fraternity and sorority system, all of that. But again, police did not host a press conference for 3.5 days. Chief James Fry got to the podium and he acknowledged that he should have probably been there at least a day earlier, but that he was there now. And he knew there were a lot of questions, but they had a lot of questions too. And I wouldn't say it was a confrontational relationship between the law enforcement and media, but the press acting on behalf of the public.
Sorry, I wanted to write this in the chat and it keeps rejecting it. But I think that they should have put Dylan in the back of the police car whenever they pulled up and they saw her with no shoes on and no jacket or nothing. And she knew the mostest, right? She's like, I seen the guy. You come with me, get in the back of my vehicle. You're not under arrest. I'm only detaining you because you have information that for this homicide. That's what they should have done. But I think that they were just in shock at what they were seeing. I mean, the first person on scene was 22 years old. No, my 22-year-old brain wouldn't have been able to process that.
Did have a lot of questions that went unanswered. And it was in subsequent press conferences that included state police, the university presidents, other members of their staff explaining the details that they could allow to trickle out in order to protect the integrity of the investigation and give what they could away. But it was a slow drip. In terms of the media's presence in Moscow, it is a smaller community. The mayor of Moscow, Art Bedke, had told me that it did become kind of a nuisance. And there were national media, as one example, flying in and putting microphones in regular Moscow residents' faces over breakfast. And, people became very annoyed by it. They were already suffering through this tragedy. And then to be overwhelmed by a media presence they were not traditionally familiar with, it did become a little tense.
Did the chief, other than acknowledging I should have done this sooner, did he ever explain why there was radio silence in the first few days and say, it was because we were trying to gather information? Because, look, we both work in national news. It's usually same day that local law enforcement or authorities have something, even if it is just to say there's been a quadruple homicide. We know nothing yet. We will let you know. It's sort of like we're on it. And without it, to your point, it led to a lot of questions. Was that ever addressed?
Chief,
I thought that Chief Fry, I'm going to interrupt him, but I thought he said something about like he was nervous about talking in front of people without having like a liaison or something there with him, which I can understand that. I mean, this was a big case, and he didn't feel like he thought that he was the man for the job when it comes to being the chief and doing that kind of stuff. But when it comes to like public talking and stuff like that, I think that he wanted the extra help.
Fry's retirement is what it was. After 29 years with the department, including 8 as the chief, he had just reached a point of an ability to retire. He actually ran for sheriff of the county, lost, but now he is signed on as chief of a department in Washington's Tri-Cities. So that was unrelated completely from anything to do with botching the investigation or whatever. The point that police, led by James Fry, about keeping information close to the vest had to do with protecting the integrity of the investigation. They knew what they could. they knew a lot of information, but they were gathering more and more, including through forensics and the beginning of search warrants to understand who may have been in the neighborhood, everything from cell tower pings to surveillance cameras in the neighborhoods. They were asking everybody eventually for any information they knew or things they heard. And it was a sprawling investigation, and it took a lot of time to use your resources appropriately to get the details and find what was available to try to piece this thing together, which after 7 weeks, they did with the assistance of the Idaho State Police and the FBI. And I think any sort of scrutiny and critique about their investigation was eventually washed away because they solved the crime.
And there's always the tension between the public's right to know or interest in knowing with, to your point, protecting the integrity of the investigation. And we've covered many horrific crimes and cases where leaked information has a detrimental effect and prolongs. They know it scares off the guy that they have in their sights, or et cetera, tips them off that they're onto him. So notwithstanding that, what were the biggest unanswered questions in those initial weeks that drove the narrative?
Even leading up to the arrest of Bryan Kohberger on December 30th, 2022 in Pennsylvania, there had been no indication or implication that they had a suspect. We at the Idaho Statesman had interviewed Bill Thompson just 2 days before, and he was confident that the crime would be solved, as would be how you would project such a thing. He said nothing of the sort, kept it close to the vest. No member of law enforcement ever indicated anything about actually having figured out who this was. We later learned that by December 19th, they had found that to be his DNA, and they were starting to build their case for an arrest warrant and search warrants of his apartment and office at Washington State University, in addition to his effects and everything at his parents' home in eastern Pennsylvania in the Poconos. So there were questions, and some of those even remain today. The who was answered. Bryan Kohberger admitted guilt for these 4 murders in the last couple of weeks, but we still don't really have an answer about why, which has frustrated the family's victims in particular. Additional questions we had were, what happened to the murder weapon? That was a big one. Again, we knew it was a large fixed blade knife. Police were pretty protective of that information. We didn't know the order of the victims. We learned that Kaylee and Maddie were discovered in the same bed by Kaylee's father at a memorial event. I mean, there were certain details that police really kept behind closed doors, but they would slowly leak out. And I know this was the type of information they didn't want to release because they knew one of the few people who would know that information and they could verify these things through would be the killer. So beyond that, there were also just a number of questions police couldn't get to or just declined to comment in the moments in those early days and weeks. We were in the media still trying to just understand the whereabouts of the 4 victims, where they were that night, who they were with. It was the slow trickle of information. A lot of that didn't come out until the release of the probable cause affidavit, which was associated with Kohberger's arrest on December 30th. We came to learn that the victims were out in pairs and what time they got back and what time they might have gone to bed. And initially, it was believed that the crime had occurred in a 25-minute window between 4 and 4:25 a.m. Police had determined that, but it was later narrowed to this 13-minute window. But a lot of these details were things that they didn't describe. They didn't tell us what the murder weapon was. They believed it was a large fixed blade knife. That was the extent of what we knew. We didn't know how the individuals were killed. We knew that they were fatally stabbed, but we don't, even to this day, we still don't know the specifics of that. And now without a trial, a lot of that won't come out publicly, at least.
And it's hard, the reality is when it's a college town and it's a football night and everyone's drinking and it's late, memories are soft to begin with. And it's really difficult to, I think, accurately map out what exactly happened. And talk to us about the resources that police relied on. As we learned later, you mentioned the apps that the students themselves were using and cameras around, and was there testimony from the hot dog vendor and the Uber driver, and how did they sort of piece together at the time what that full picture looked like?
Yeah, a particularly interesting case because these students were moving around the we mentioned Xana was on TikTok, so there was a search warrant. We we had been told that it was a ride share. We didn't know if it was Uber or what it was exactly. It happened to be a student on campus who was a designated driver and helping get students back and forth. But police, of course, interviewed that person. Police interviewed the grub truck, is what it's called, the food truck where Kaylee and Maddie had purchased food before they headed home. There was a DoorDash delivery, and police located her and got information from her about her timeline. A lot of that certainly played into the investigation, at least eliminating certain individuals. There were a lot of rumors online about, could it have been somebody tied to these people, maybe an ex-boyfriend, that sort of thing. And interviews conducted by police, they cleared a lot of those people pretty early in, including a gentleman who was with the two women at the food truck. He was eliminated as a potential suspect very early in. As far as resources, I mentioned the Idaho State Police were immediately on the case, and they were then processing the DNA they discovered, a single male DNA found on the knife sheath next to Madison Mogen's body in the bed. And that really was the key to unlocking the entire case. They used a process known as investigative genetic genealogy. It's called IgG, and that's primarily used in cold cases. It's how police, after decades, discovered the Golden State Killer as one example. We're increasingly seeing that used in active cases like this one, where we need to get somebody who's extremely dangerous off of the street. And they use that in collaboration with a private lab out of Texas, and then the FBI took over that process. Eventually, a trash pull was done at the Koberger family residence. A Q-tip was used and processed at the Idaho State lab outside of Boise. And they discovered that the individuals whose DNA was on that Q-tip was Brian Koberger's father. And the way that they figured that out was essentially the DNA on the knife sheath was the son of whoever's DNA was on that Q-tip. And so by process of elimination, they knew that Brian Koberger lived in the area, and they knew that Brian Koberger's father only had one son. So when they arrested him, they did a cheek swab and had a direct match, they say, between the knife sheath DNA and Brian Koberger. Security cam footage you mentioned from around the community. They went and asked area businesses as they tried to figure out the route of the white vehicle that had been in the neighborhood and circling for an hour to piece that together. Suspect vehicle 1 is what they refer to that as. And they in order to try to get more information, police did eventually reach out to the public and say they believed it was a white Hyundai Elantra between the years 2011 and 2013. So they had it not quite right, and they amended that, never communicated that to the public. But then, of course, Brian Koberger's vehicle was a 2015, very similar body type. So they had reached out to the public. They used cell phone tower information. Koberger's phone was turned off or in airplane mode during the exact window of the crime, but then they discovered that he had entered from Pullman into Moscow, and then his phone went off. And then about 48 minutes later, it was more than an hour later, his phone came back on just south of Moscow as it made its return trip back on the back roads, rural community, back to Pullman at 5:31 a.m.
Kevin, talk to us about the 4 victims, Maddie and Kaylee and Xana and Ethan, and how the community grieved them.
It was a terrible process. They were very popular in the community, well-known, well-liked. The Greek community makes up about a quarter of the college campus. And I'll start with Ethan. He was a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity, and as was his brother Hunter. And then their sister, so they are triplets, Maisie, was also a member of Greek life in one of the local sororities. Ethan was a boisterous and athletic type. His mother, Stacy, had mentioned that he was still considered a freshman, despite having attended for his second year. I'm not sure his grades were particularly strong, but he was a guy who didn't necessarily love class, but loved college. And he was known as fun-loving, a jet skier, had grown up in Mount Vernon, Washington, but the family has a second home on Priest Lake in North Idaho, and a lot of lake days. And that was really his makeup. Very tight-knit family among the 5 of them, the 3 triplets and their parents. And somebody who was probably still hitting his stride to some extent, but had connected with Xana Kernodle after getting to know her through campus life, including Greek life. developed a deep bond. Friends say that they were basically the same personality, just one was male and one was female, and so they were a hit. And Stacy Chapin, Ethan's mother, had talked about it was clear when the family met her and she had come and spent some time with the family on the lake that the relationship had gotten pretty serious. Xana came from North Idaho. The three women are all from there, and kind of an up and down life. Her parents had split. Her dad lives in Arizona, and she has an older sister as well, Jasmine, who was attending school at Washington State University for a graduate degree. So in the area, but Xana moved between Arizona and North Idaho, spent a lot of time with other friends' families, as her parents were sometimes in the picture and sometimes not. And I think really enjoyed college as well, fun-loving, had been a gymnast growing up, also in the same sorority with Madison Mogan. And they had a deep bond, as did the other roommates. Everybody was part of that same sorority except for Kaylee Gonsalves, who was part of a different sorority. But sorority life was important. They were all, good college kids partying, but with good grades and fun on the weekends. That's really the makeup, and that was one of the party houses. It's kind of the runoff for Greek life, and they had gotten this home and were very excited, and a tight-knit group of friends. Madison Mogan and Xana worked together at a Greek restaurant downtown. They both were servers. Maddie had helped get Xana a job at the restaurant. And so that's what they did on the side. They worked as servers. Maddie was working in marketing and assisting the restaurant with some of its marketing efforts and advertising. When the four victims had been killed, candles stayed lit outside of the Matt Greek, it was called. It's no longer there, actually. Just has moved on, the owner. But candles were lit consistently in the days and weeks after their deaths for months and months as a tribute to the four victims. Kaylee Gonsalves actually was set to graduate that December, so a semester early, and was interested in IT work and had interned with Extreme Networks out of Texas. And then that was supposed to transition into full-time work, and she was going to be moving to the Austin area. One of the more tragic elements of this is Kaylee wasn't even supposed to be there that night. She came down from North Idaho, where she lived, and where she and Maddie had grown up and been best friends since sixth grade. She had come down to attend the football game and kind of a last hurrah to see her friends and roommates. And she had recently bought a Range Rover and wanted to show that off to her friends as well. So she made the trip. She was down for the weekend. And of course, this unfortunate tragedy struck them all.
Looking back at your initial coverage of this case, what moments stuck with you the most?
It's probably recency bias, but the change of plea hearing came as such a shock. We were 4 weeks away from jury selection, 6 weeks away from trial, and suddenly there's breaking information that Bryan Kohberger, after more than 2.5 years of legal proceedings and all of that time in custody, whether it was in Moscow or down in Boise for about a year, he had struck a deal. He had agreed to plead guilty to all charges, including felony burglary and 4 counts of first-degree murder, in exchange for dropping the death penalty and no chance of parole on consecutive life sentences and no ability to appeal. This is a case that has shocked and created more curiosity about a murder case than I've ever experienced, and many in the nation were compelled at every movement and motion of this case and the legal proceedings over all that time. And after all said and done, we don't even end up with a trial to learn many of the details. So that stuck with me. And being in the courtroom to experience that and see in a very robotic and emotionless way him accept responsibility for having murdered these individuals. We still don't know a motive of any kind. We know some of his criminology history and the things he studied, including serial killers in graduate school and DeSales University in Pennsylvania under a really well-known and prestigious forensic psychologist. We know that about Bryan Kohberger. A packed house at the courtroom in Boise. Again, everyone expecting a trial to begin. And instead, the case was once again flipped on its head, as happened many, many times over the course of these years. And it was kind of a surreal experience watching Brian Koberger not only admit that he did that, but also plead guilty and answer questions from the judge over the course of about a 50-minute hearing. And in terms of my local coverage up in Moscow, I spent a number of weeks up there, back and forth, trying to understand what was happening during the course of the investigation. And I can recall very vividly knocking on doors of the neighbors, for example, right near the home, which no longer stands. But even weeks in, they were still just so shocked, whether or not they knew the victims themselves or had walked by the home and seen them out on the backyard with drinks and friends. It was very personal to each of those individuals. Everybody had some direct connection. One guy, I knocked on his door. Oh yeah, I didn't know them, but my girlfriend was in a sorority with one of them, and just the deep impact it had on her. It was not only the loss of life and the loss of students, and 4 students at that. It was people who were well known, well liked, somebody you'd run into consistently, always with a smile, and it really touched the community. It hurt the community very deeply, and I don't think it's something that they will ever really get over. They will be able to heal and move forward. Did that with the arrest, and now seemingly some level of conclusion in the case with Brian Koberger's conviction after pleading guilty. But it will remain in Moscow, and these will never be forgotten people. There's a memorial that the school built that's dedicated to them and also other victims of crimes and suicide, things like that, on campus. So there's always visual reminders as well. But I think the spirit of who has become the Idaho 4 will remain forever.
Kevin, what happened with the house?
About a year after the arrest of Brian Koberger, very controversially, the home was actually knocked down. The home had been owned by a private individual who then gifted it to the university to basically make a decision about what to do with it. It was a horrific scene. It had been cleaned up, and the prosecution and defense had been through many, many times for evidentiary purposes to understand the dynamics of the crime. The FBI had done 3D imaging of the interior, and the university, although it was delayed more than once, did make the decision to knock the home down. The prosecution and the defense both stipulated to the fact that they no longer had evidentiary needs for the home, and the university, while has not made decisions about what will happen to the actual property, did knock it down on December 28th, 2023, early morning hours, almost in the dark of morning. And it upset several of the families out of concern that perhaps jurors might want to see and experience what sounds are like in there, and what sightlines look like if there were questions about what one of the surviving roommates may have eyewitnessed. And as she saw the man who was Brian Koberger exiting in the direction of the backsliding glass door. But the home is no longer standing. It's a vacant lot with thatch. It was an eyesore, obviously, for the community. The university president, Scott Green, determined that it was something that just had to go. It was just a constant reminder, and the community needed to begin to heal.
I'm paused, or I'm muted. I'm muted. I'm paused. I said I'm paused. I was trying to pull up the next page. I was trying to see what I wanted to show you guys next, but my dog's back here just licking her arm. Sorry about the bark in the middle of that. I don't think they've ever barked before. And you guys, that probably scared you guys because they never bark. But we now have dogs everywhere in this building, everywhere. There's only 8 units, and there's a dog across from us, directly across from us, right there. There's 2 dogs downstairs in one apartment, and then I think 1 or 2 dogs in the other apartment. I'm pretty sure there's 2 in the other one, but when they start barking, Mia will start barking. And so I was trying to mute it, and she barked right in your guys' ear. So I'm sorry about that. But thank you guys all for being here tonight. I do appreciate it. Happy Saturday to you. Happy Saturday night. This is the best day of the week, especially if you work Monday through Friday, because this is the night that you can sleep in to whenever you want to, right? Unless you have church tomorrow, then you better be going up, better be getting up and serving the Lord, which I have a video I need to upload for you guys. It's of the Lord. We have like a statue not too far from where we live, and I'm not good with height, but it's at least 4 stories high, tall, of this giant Jesus. It's a giant Jesus. I'm gonna have to find it so I can put it. I put it on my my shorts before. I said, y'all need some of Jesus. Y'all need some of him, but I'll have to put it back on there again. It was pretty funny. So thank you, Happy Mom. I appreciate it. Hey, Abby, how are you doing? Right back at ya. Oh, I just got off work. Oh, long weekend. Oh, the long weekend's here. I forgot about that. Wait a minute. That's Monday. Does anybody have any great plans? I hope you guys do. I'm going to try to get out the next 2 days because I was supposed to get out like this whole week and it's been 73, just chilling. But it's not like a hot 73, like, like warm. It's more of like a cool breeze 73, which I love if it was fall. It's not fall yet. It's not fall. Yes. Thank you, Ladybug. You tell them, say you hit that like button. Everybody y'all better hit that like, or a creepy crawler's going to come out from underneath your sheets tonight and get you. A stink bug. I would scare me into hitting the like button. I'll tell you that right now. You ever see those videos that they'll say like, the centipede will come after you. I've seen them, unfortunately. So we were talking during the video and we were talking about, they started talking about it. So we were talking about it, but the ISP timed runs at the King Road residence. So they did some timed runs. I wasn't sure if it was the FBI or the ISP, but it looks like ISP. So the Idaho State Police Sergeant, Darren Gilbertson, the one that we saw last weekend, I believe we played it, the Fox Nation interview. It was like an hour and a half long. So he conducted time runs through the residence at 1122 King Road to determine the estimated amount of time Brian Kohberger could have taken to carry out the murders. ISP Detective Jeff Talbot and MPD Corporal Brett Payne assisted, with Payne tracking times and Talbot calling out simulated strike counts based on autopsy findings. So the entry and path assumption, investigators believe Kohberger parked in the paved lot south of the house, which is like the back of the house, and entered through the second floor sliding glass door. He is thought to have gone upstairs to the third floor, checked Kaylee Gonzalez's empty room, then attacked both Madison Mogan and Kaylee Gonzalez in Madison's bed, returned downstairs, entered Xana Kernodle's bedroom where she fought back before being killed, and Ethan Chapin was killed in the bed, exited through the sliding glass door, which was left partly open, and returned to his vehicle. The quick run path followed rapidly with strike simulations, total time 2 minutes, 33 seconds. When I heard these, I was like, whoa, because I thought it would take a little bit longer, but no, 2 minutes, 33 seconds. Vehicle approach / exit routes tested. So the short direct path. So the rear parking to sliding door, 30 seconds of walking, 6-7 seconds if you're running. That's all it takes. Longer, if you go longer, like to the tree line, the fence, the line path, it's a minute walking, 10 to 20 seconds if you're running. So conclusion there, Kohberger could have completed the murders in as little as 2 minutes, 6 seconds if he was fast on the fast-paced short path, up to 3 minutes, 45 seconds on the slow pace long path. And I think they did. So, okay. Down here, it says Kohberger most likely parked at the back of the residence in the paved area to the south. Entry point believed to be the sliding glass door on the second floor. Investigators believe sequence was upstairs the third floor, attacked Mogan and Gonzalez in Madison's bed. Downstairs the second floor, attacked Kernodle and Chapin in Xana's room. Exited back through the sliding glass door, left partly open. So fast Okay, so first run, fast pace. So the entry was through the kitchen, third floor bedroom, simulate strikes, down to the second floor bedroom, simulate strikes, exit, time 1 minute, 30 seconds. Slower, deliberate pace, same path, but slow, quiet movements to simulate stealth, time 2 minutes, 33 seconds. So if you're running in there, fast pace like a mad person, a minute and 30 seconds, you could do all that with a K bar. So then the vehicle approach and exit times, the short path, 6 to 7 seconds. We just read that. And then 30 seconds of walking, and then a minute of walking, 10 to 12 seconds of running. And we do know that Brian was a runner. So maybe he ran back there. I don't know. I wouldn't think that he would run. I would think that he'd be more stealthy than that. But, you really don't know, right? You really don't. So I don't know if everybody, hey, Trips, where you been, bud? Missed ya. I haven't seen you in a while. He could have, yeah. But Betsy, I'm still stuck on that front door a little bit. Just a little. Not as much as I used to be, though. I'm not a diehard back door, no, front door, absolutely yes anymore. But I'm pretty close. Oh, I wonder what Tony thinks now. Because Tony, she thought front door also. So I'm wondering what she's thinking now. If she's, been lurking. I know, me too. Brie, that's a really good question. Maybe because he saw a man there. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, if he was asleep, I would think that Ethan would have woken up, but it doesn't look like he got up, right? Like, it doesn't look like he got up or anything. And if he did, he was cut like in his neck area. Maybe if he was getting up, like maybe drunkenly getting up, like you're kind of still in your drunken stupor. Maybe he was going off the bed like this way, instead of like turning over and getting up. Maybe he was just like laying at a weird angle and he just like kind of like was scooting out of bed, like, oh, like, what's going on? And then maybe Koberger came up behind him before he could stand up all the way and got him in the neck and then maybe pushed him back onto the bed. I don't know, but I feel like if Ethan was sober, I think, and Koberger maybe didn't have the knife because, that knife's a murdering machine. That's what they're made for. I mean, that's what they're made for. They're made for combat and they're made for durability, right? Yeah, I think that's probably why he killed Ethan, was because he was a man and he saw him there. And if you think about it, like Ethan was wearing no shirt. I think he may have had like boxers or something on, but like the blanket was over him. So he not only saw a man in the bed, but technically Ethan looked like he might have been naked, right? Like waist up. You could, like, the blanket was over his waist. So yeah. Yeah, I think that could have been it. And that could be why the bed was moved a weird way, because the bed looked like it was moved because Ethan's head was like in between the bed and the wall. I think it was like this, but more like even more crooked than that. So I don't know. I mean, that's the first thing that I could think of, like maybe how Ethan got cut, or he just got on the bed and he just cut him in the neck and killed him, But I mean, with all that noise right there in the bedroom, it probably would have taken Ethan a minute to get up. You know what I mean? Like, what is going on? Like, you're in like you've been drinking a little or a lot, whatever the case may be, and you're trying to wake up and be like alert, and you're in Moscow. So you're not thinking, you know what I mean? I know those little towns. I lived in a little town like that, right? Where you don't think nothing bad is going to happen. We didn't lock our doors until 2001. That's when we started. And that was only because like 9/11. That's why we started locking our doors, but we never locked our doors before then. So I know what it's kind of like to have that mindset of nothing happens here, right? So, and I know that he did get cut in the legs. I'm not sure if it was carved, but we did read that there were cuts to his legs. It's just very sad. But if you guys didn't get a chance to see Bryan Kohberger's the pictures from Bryan Kohberger's apartment today, we went through those, his office, his apartment, some of the crime scene, like the vehicles and stuff. Again, they look like they were kind of like repeat pictures, but they were new. They just came out from ISP last night. So we went over those on our afternoon live. So you could always watch that afternoon live. We'd love for you to do that. But I'll go over this article that I found from TMZ with you guys, and it'll show a little bit of what he had. So it says cops have released hundreds of photos. It was 699 actually, of what looks like Bryan Kohberger's home and his office. And he had stuff in his house. He definitely did. And it says, and we've put some of the most shocking in a gallery for you to see. Numerous pictures were taken in the aftermath of the quadruple homicide Kohberger pled guilty to earlier this summer, including one from an office bearing his name on the door and showing a message scrawled on the whiteboard. Take it easy. Don't give up. And then those are his books that we're going to go over that he was reading. I mean, he's got like stuff in these ones. He's got like little page markers. So photos from inside what looks like Kohberger's residence were included in Friday's release as well, full of books about criminal justice, including one about the sexual victimization of women on college campuses. Didn't see that one. Maybe this one, Ivory Tower. I know that's a college campus. I think that's in Texas, isn't it? It was the one where there was the shooter up there. Shot all those people in the 70s. I think it was 70s, 60s, 70s. The shelves in the kitchen and bedroom are relatively sparse, just a few food items and outfits despite the ample space in the room. And then we read this earlier. This was his improvement plan. Some happy birthday cards addressed to Bryan were photographed by police, as was an improvement plan from Washington State University, where Kohberger was trying to get his PhD in criminology. Among the other items in the photos, papers with numerous critiques written in black and blue ink, a card featuring Theodore Roosevelt on the back of a T-Rex, and numerous tickets from WSU. 7 tickets, not new. Yeah, I guess it's numerous. Kohberger is serving 4 consecutive life sentences for the murder of Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin after taking a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. And then these are his writings. We went over these a few days ago. He's upset. He's mad. And we're going to go over his handwriting. We're going to go over that sometime soon. Because, yeah, it says a lot. Since he's been incarcerated, Kohberger has launched multiple protests to the Idaho Department of Corrections, filing a sexual harassment complaint and claiming other inmates are taunting him, actually naming Peru as one of the people that was taunting him. I wonder what Peru has to say, and I wonder what Peru's last name is, actually. I wonder if we can figure that out. Let's write Peru. That's who we need to write. That's who we need to write. Kohberger ain't going to have time for us. Too many people going to be writing him. We get to Peru and we say, hey, Peru, have you been harassing Bryan Kohberger? I need an inmate number, though. I think you have to put their inmate number on the mail. Pretty sure you do. I know this is going to sound weird, but I wrote somebody in jail recently, and it was for a case, but not a case that involving anything on YouTube. So it's a case involving a family member. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that. I'm not just out here writing people in jail. But it was just something, this was extremely important. It was about my cousin's death. So So Peru, okay. Peru is the guy that Brian Koberger name called that's in jail with him. So Brian is saying that he's getting like whistled at and, don't like, Brian, you look good. We want to, do things to you, Brian, like those things, And he said to the guard, Brian said, it was Peru. He snitched already. He's not even in Gen Pop yet, and he's already snitching. Oh, Brie, I'd love to know. The woman downstairs that always hated him because he was upstairs. Her kids were trying to sleep, and he was always upstairs trying to like be cleaning and stuff at 12 o'clock at night. She's probably happy. He's going to get killed. The one thing that you do not do in prison is snitch. You never snitch. You get beat up like a pulp of nothing. You don't snitch. So then the cop, right? The cop puts in his paperwork. He's like, well, I couldn't tell who was screaming. I heard them talking and saying vulgar things to Brian, but I couldn't tell who it was. That's a smart cop or, CO. Hey, CJK. But yeah. So Peru, yeah. Man, I hope Peru don't come after me because I keep saying his name. Yeah, so Peru's now BK's new boyfriend. And you're gonna owe him so much, Brian. Peru's already got you. Peru's already got you. You're screwed, Koberger. Really. It's really, it's something else. It's something else. He's gonna learn real quick. Yeah. Like, I would have been like the person beside me, right? Or like, I don't know who it is, but it sounds like it's coming from this area. I don't know. I just would never say someone's name. Yeah. I think it was like 10 years before though. I want to say like 2012 or something. But he not checked out. 163-214. Yep. Peruvian. Yeah. Yeah, he got murdered too. It's so crazy. So that shower curtain was up in his car, Bundy dad. I don't know if you saw the new pictures that came out of his apartment, but it was shower liner free. And he didn't throw it away because he was going to his parents' house for a couple weeks for Christmas. Not when you look at his apartment and you see the food that he left and like what he left there, like, no. See, yeah, he's only complaining because he loves them. Jethro Troll. This is the Brian Koberger. Well, Brian Koberger said he was guilty. So that's what this channel is. We just go on facts. But Brian Koberger admitted guilt last month. Some people don't know, because some people may have been enjoying their summer. But he admitted to killing Kaylee Gonzalez, Madison Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle in their off-campus apartment. He said, I did it. Please don't put me on death row, which is crazy to me. I told you guys this, and I can't remember who said it, but I read this in an article too. The guy that put together the shooting chamber, the firing squad chamber, he's pissed. He's mad that Brian did not get the death penalty. He's like, okay, if he's not, like what I said last night, if this isn't a perfect case for the death penalty, even if you agree with it or don't agree with it, if this isn't the case for it, then what case is, right? You kill one person in Idaho, 2 people, you should be just life in prison. 3 people, just life in prison. 4 people, maybe just life in prison. But this guy's mad. He's like, we put together this shooting, firing squad, and we're going to use it. He's like, so. Hey, Crafty One. Well, I'm getting ready to jump off here now, actually, I think. It's going to be a shorter live tonight, but I did do that live earlier today. So if you guys need anything to watch, that was a really good live. We just skimmed through the pictures. I kind of told you what was going on where, because I kind of knew the layout of the apartment because, well, we all saw the apartment on here. We looked up Zillow and it had a virtual tour. Or you can go under steptoe villageapartments.com and they'll offer you like a virtual tour if you want to see the virtual tour of inside of apartment that looks like Brian Koberger's. And now we've been in it. And now we've seen his bed. And I don't like that. Did you see how like bright his bathroom was? They must either that is a brand new bathtub. Like they re-caulked all that. I mean, that's not even like a re-caulking. That was like so shiny. I'm gonna write him in prison just so I can ask him what did you use in the shower to make it bright like that? Was that some like Jep or something? Did you get a Lowe's for that? Really? I thought you said he gushing. No, if he did, I'd be over here freaking out right now. They were so clean. They were so white. Like I can't do that. Like not that white. I almost needed sunglasses. Like that was pretty white. And you know what? That's probably what his OCD was, right? Like it was probably just cleanliness, like as in his body. Like, that's why his shower was so clean. Maybe, his sinks didn't really look dirty, I don't think either. They just looked old. But he did have some Windex in the bathroom and some toilet bowl cleaner. It was so white. Be like, Brian Koberger, I have a question for you. Everyone will be like writing him, asking him like this, that, and the other. I'll be like, how'd you clean your bathroom so well? And where's your shower curtain? I want to know where the shower curtain went because we all know where it went. But we did learn today the Dickies receipt is not what we thought, what I thought. I'm not you guys. You guys didn't think exactly like me. But I thought it was one of those zip up like mechanic outfits. We matched the receipt to the tag and it is a beanie. So just a little head garment. So yeah. The person that cleans them, Sheree, they said that they can't keep them clean. Like they can't get them clean. I thought it was a jumpsuit too. I could have sworn on my whole life probably. But I matched up the SKU to the receipt and I was like, oh my gosh, this Dickies tag is for a $12.88 beanie or something like that. It even has $12.88 on the price tag. That was the first inkling. I was like, wait a minute. That's not that much. I mean, that's like that's a good deal if that's how much that cost. See, that could be it. Bri. I wonder if she ever came back. That girl from Brian's Girls. Maybe I can go sneak back in there. I don't know if you guys know, but there was a subreddit group called Brian's Girls. They got banned once before, so they came back under Brian, spelled B-R-I instead of Y, trying to be cool, trying to be slick. Well, I got in there. Me and Ozzy actually got in there. She's in our chat sometimes. We both were in the back. We got into the secret like hideaway of Brian Koberger's fan group or whatever. And we have like deduced from that, I guess you could say, is that it was one person. I think we all looked at some of the stuff that she did on there. It appears to be somebody that's pretty young and like not emotionally, mentally there. You know what I mean? Like just something's like maybe she's aged, maybe physically aged 19, but like mentally aged 11. You know what I mean? Like it's like one of those like macaroni, like pasting it, to the picture frame looking kind of stuff that she would put up with Brian. Maybe hearts all over his pictures and stuff like that. But it does look like it was only one person. I got into the fan club. Yeah, heck yeah, I did. Then they kicked me out. I changed my name and everything on Reddit. It's still changed. It's on, I forget what my name is under there now, but it was TitaniumBuilt. And then I had to change it because I was like, they can't know who I be. So I went in there and I was looking around and it looks like somebody that, they could be older, but they emotionally, mentally are stunted or something. Like I feel bad for the person in a way. Like, somebody get them off the internet, you know? Hey, Nancy. And I didn't realize I was saying it earlier on my live, but the comments section let me know. So when I say OCD, sometimes I put an S on it and I'll say OCDs with an S. I've always done that. I've done that ever since I was a little girl. I was a little girl when I found out about this because my brother had it. I have it, and my mom had it, my grandma had it. But my brother had it so bad, and it was washing hands and stuff like that, to the point where we would have to go in the bathroom and be like, give me the damn soap. Give me the soap. Or if he was taking a shower, he would, like, if whoever was there, he would scream to one of us, Mom. If he's in the chat, he'll be laughing. Mom, that's what he sounds like. But she'd have to go and like peek in, and he would have to be throwing the shower, like, or over the shower, the conditioner, the shampoo. He was balding. Like, he didn't have nothing to shampoo and condition up there. But you bet your butt he tried to do it about 20 times before he called us in, because we would forget sometimes to take the stuff out of there. I guess what would have been a good idea would have been to give him travel size. Yeah. So if you have OCDs and you do, and cleanliness is a thing, and you can't stop washing your hair, you can't stop washing your body, try travel size stuff. So that way you eventually, it's only going to be a little, right? Eventually got to get out to get more if you wanted to. And once you're out, you usually don't get back in. Mine OCDs is cleanliness is one. Organization is the big one for me. She does a heart with her hands. Oh my God. I never get on TikTok. I'm going to say I need to, but I don't, because I would just be lost all day. I would just be scrolling through, because the YouTube shorts get me. And I do post YouTube shorts here and there. So if you guys are ever interested in those, I do. And if you're on my TikTok, then you get the added pleasure of seeing my TikToks that are just kind of like out there, just kind of unhinged, I guess you would say. Make sure you're following me over on Unfiltered with Tanya. I'm gonna have to find that on our next live. I'm gonna do a live on the second channel, and that way I can do that. I can give you guys the TikTok handle. Okay, baby girl, send it to me. Oh my gosh, with some of the stuff I don't know. I like just some of the stuff I want to put on TikTok. I don't, but I think I should, because it's funny. I always wanted to like put Vincent on there. I like to scare him. Like, it's, I think that would be like really funny of me, just like TikToks of me like scaring him. I just think that would be funny. I would laugh at that. He told me before I should do a TikTok account on the dogs, because I'm always like talking like they're talking, like I'm like, this is what she said. And it's like, she can't talk. I'm like, no, but that's what she said. So, I think it's funny. And I don't have any plans for the holiday, Cheryl. I'm going to be, and don't be harassing that man. He's going to be here every day with me. He got a new job, so he's working remote. Like, I forgot that part. I totally forgot that part. I said God makes 9 to 5 for a reason. He makes you go there, I stay here for a reason. I'll probably be streaming though. But I know I talk to my dogs all the time too. I talk for them and I talk to them, and no one tell me any differently. But I'll try not to harass them. So no holiday plans. And I will harass him a little, not too much. But that's what I was telling you. So yeah, he got a new job at this really big hospital, and he's going to have his dream job. And like, I'm so happy for him. I'm so happy for him. Like, I can't even tell you enough. I'm really happy for him. But when he came home and he told me, I was like, oh my gosh, like, go you know, I'm like, let's go. And we're like celebrating. And he's like, yeah, he's like, it's remote. I said, I forgot. I'm just kidding. I told him I won't bother him. So I have to not bother him. But no, I wouldn't bother him, but you know. Between World War 17, between the pups. I'm free. You're gonna be at the farm all weekend? Oh, your son's sick. Oh, that sucks. Maybe he'll feel better. Maybe it's just a little like bug. Hopefully he wakes up in the morning, he feels better. The dogs are fighting. That's funny. My dogs do the same. They fight. They literally, they act like they're freaking sisters. I've never seen anything like it between two dogs. I've had dogs be like best buddies. These two are on a whole other level. They won't even go to the bathroom without each other. The leash broke one day, one of my retractable leashes. And I'm like, I'm screwed for a minute because, I was just waiting. I was like, I have to wait for Vincent to get home so I could, take the car and go over. Well, I try to take a dog out to go to the bathroom, and she runs out, like she always does, out into the hallway. And then she turns around and she looks for her sister. And I was like, she's not coming. And neither of them. I tried to hook the other one up. They would not go outside without the other. I'm like, well, then we're holding it. Actually, we didn't hold it. We called DoorDash, or we ordered off DoorDash. We didn't call DoorDash. We ordered a chain. I know, they're so cute. Those dogs are adorable. Aren't they like brother and sister? You said brothers or something? They're brother and sister, yeah. Man, probably fighting like brother and sister too. If I would, I was going to get the boy. There was 2 Weimaraners in the cage when we went, like at this little kennel, because they brought them from their big log cabin that they breed, that like the dog log cabin, not the people that we were buying the dogs from. But they bring them from their little log cabin and they put them in like this little kennel. They were so cute together. But I was like, I can't. We had just gotten Araya, and she's sleeping. We had just gotten Araya, and like there's no way, right? And like there was no way I was going to get rid of her, because I mean, this is my spirit animal. Like, I ride or die for her. And if you guys know, you know. But thank you guys for being here tonight. I'm going to jump off here. I'm going to go see what Vincent's doing. I think he might be taking a little nappy nap or something, because when the dogs went out there, when they were barking, I let them out. They came right back to the door. So I'm going to go see what he's doing. Oh, and I still didn't get to use my applause or my boo sound effects yet. So let me know next time if I do something crazy, but like do the boo sound effect. Ooh, or if someone says something like off in the chat, I'm going to use it. I know, King B. Johnson, we usually at the end of the lives, our conversations will like shift from, as soon as you see me like go to full screen like this at the end of the live, more than likely we're going to talk about something else after the live. It's kind of like our after party after the live. We usually will talk for about 15 or 20 minutes. Sometimes we'll talk for even longer than that. I will, Ladybug. I will. I appreciate it. Well, thank you guys for being here. I will see you guys all tomorrow. I may do an afternoon live on my second channel, only because it's going to warm up towards like the later on in like the afternoon. So I'm going to go out like around like 2 or 3 or 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, something like that. Because it's going to be warmer tomorrow night. And then Monday, it's going to be like 78 or 79 here. And I'm going to be in the pool. I don't care if it's cold in that pool. I don't care. I'm getting in there and I'm going to stay my butt in there, because I know that fall is coming and we are going to be stuck in this house, fall, winter, it just goes so quick. So make sure you guys get out this weekend a little bit, get some sun, get some vitamin D, all the things, get some, I need to work on my tan. I'm still pretty dark, but I'm not as dark as I used to be. Oh yeah, I know, baby girl. Are you talking to me or are you talking to Ashley? Okay, you might be talking to Ashley because I was going to say, it took me a minute to figure it out. But I was like, oh wait, I know who that is. As soon as I saw your name, because I think you put your name in here before. Maybe you emailed me your name. But I just knew your name. I don't know. But thank you guys all for being here. Thank you, mods, for coming in tonight and helping me out in the chat. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody else, for being here. I appreciate that. If you guys don't mind, take a second, hit the like on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We do talk true crime daily here. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening. Bye, guys.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got